Welcome back to the Snap Count Show, the preview show on the Big Play Sports Network, presented by FanDuel. I'm your host, Trai Essex. It's your quarterback in mind, Mr. Charlie Batch. Sir, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Man, it's Friday, man. I am hopeful for a great weekend after coming off of last weekend. It was a losing weekend on all fronts for me. My Wildcats, my girls in soccer, and obviously the Steelers to the Chargers. But I'm hopeful. Hopeful my Northwestern Wildcats can handle things in the confines of the Wrigley Field versus the Michigan Wolverines. I'm hopeful for your Eastern Michigan squad versus Ball State, even though you might not be as hopeful. I'm hoping for you that you guys get a win, Charlie. Even if I'm positive today, right? It is
Hey,
Friday.
we had a great game against Bowling Green and was able to get the victory, and we're hoping we can continue it this week. So let's see where things take us.
Yeah, man. So, obviously the Steelers are going into a pretty big game this weekend versus their rival, the Cincinnati Bengals, the second time around. And Charlie losing the first game, obviously 33-31. There is something when we played, especially, and I hope it carried over. I'm not sure if it did, but there is something to be said when you play a team twice. There's something to be said about the first game when you're preparing, knowing that you got to play that team twice, and then obviously the second time around. So going into that week during a practice week, um, I saw a tweet that kind of troubled me a little bit today about the vibe in the locker room, saying that it doesn't feel like Bengals week from the players. This is from like account that I follow, Trey Carney. He's very good when it comes to analyzing the Steelers. He's very fact based, doesn't get a lot of emotion to it, but he wants to talk about these vibes. And Charlie, vibes go a long way. And when you are preparing to play a division rival 2 weeks in a row, something, or not 2 weeks, but for the second time after they beat you 33-31, after you were 4-1 and had all the momentum, there's needs to be a certain level of focus, detail orientation going into that practice week. Don't you think so?
No, I do think so, and obviously respect Trey when he's talking and talking about that tweet. But being in a locker room for so long and being part of this organization, we never truly said, "Hey, it's Bengals week." You only
Right.
really say that when it's Ravens. So, from that perspective, that's why I kind of push back off of that just a little bit. But I know it's different only because they beat you the first time around. And anytime you're playing a division game, you look at these type of things that are happening. You come off a loss, but again, you know their roster, they know your roster. Do you know their checks? They know you know their checks. So a lot of similarities. So you don't have to really go into over prepare mode because you know a lot of things from the game plan prior to. But fixing those mistakes, trying to rectify everything that happened, they have to fix their pass defense, and they know it. It's no secret because where you played them a few weeks ago to where you are now, you're vastly different, and there's a lot more questions, especially in the secondary for the Steelers defense.
Right. And generally speaking, division games from an O-line perspective, when you're in the trenches and you get a chance to watch film of an opponent, because throughout the season, you're only playing a team once. You're preparing that week only for that week for that team, right? For 11 games out of the 17, you're only playing the team once. For 6 games, you're playing that team twice. So going into the first game, you know you got to play that team a second time. And then when you go into the second game, you got stuff from the first game that you can look at and be like, okay, what did I do against this person? What kind of pass rush did this person give me? How did this dude play the double team? How did he play when I tried to reach him on a zone block? So from an O-line perspective, there are things that you have to prepare for and pay attention to from a detail perspective when you're playing a division rival, because like no other team in the NFL outside your division, this team knows you better than the other teams do because they've watched film. They've actually played and you've laid hands on one another, and you know how that person reacts to certain things. So going into that week, I don't want to see you over prepare, but you definitely want to hone in on the things that you do well, and then maybe add a little wrinkle, because this is the second game of this two-way division rival, and you are 10 games into the season at this point, right? You will hope that there's a little bit more elevation in your game, evolution in your game, and that you know how to attack them better than the first time around. From an O-line perspective, from a quarterback perspective, what does it look like when you play a team the second time?
Yeah, when you go back, coverages pretty much are going to be the same, but now you're just trying to figure out if there's some weaknesses that you can expose. You look, okay, well, what are they doing in the run defense? Hey, what do they do now from a substitution package when you're now going from base to your nickel to see if you can take advantage of some of the things in no huddle and see if you can now take, again, take advantage of those type of things. So again, a lot of it just kind of depends on it, but again, you know what they're going to do. If they're a 4-3 team, there's only a certain amount of coverages that you can run with that. You just want to make sure that you're ahead of the sticks to make sure you're not putting yourself in third and long situations, because when you do, that's when you start seeing a little bit more of those exotic coverages. But if you stay on track, it allows you to continue to go out there and hopefully correct a lot of those mistakes that you made the first time around.
As we look specifically at this Bengals game, they are coming off a bye week, so they're going to be fresh, right? Joe Flacco was banged up a little bit, but the things that happened that resulted in our loss were pretty obvious. Things that we wanted to do offensively, we actually were able to do. We ran the ball well with Jalen, although I thought we could have ran the ball more in the second half to control the clock to keep the Flacco and company off the field. Um, Offensively, we had big plays to DK that game. We had big plays. And so we scored 31 points, and you would hope that that would be enough to win that game. But defensively, there were a lot of things that we had trouble with that we hope have, will be rectified this time around. We let Chase Brown go off after that offensive line had been the worst rushing offense up until that point. We let him go off for whatever reason. We let the other Chase, Jamar Chase, get 23 targets and 16 receptions without seemingly adjusting to how they were attacking us. Now, I think some things have shored up in that secondary, but as we look at the keys to victory for this game, from my perspective, I think we need to very first and foremost feed Jalen early and late. I want to emphasize and late because we have done a good job of getting him involved early on, but he needs to control the game. I think if we put the ball in Jalen Warren's hand, and I know we got to protect him from himself sometimes because how he runs the ball, but he needs the ball because he's our big playmaker outside of DK. But we need his big plays and his consistency in the second half, and we need to continue to feed him in the second half. Secondly, I mentioned it before. Stop the chase in his tracks. And I'm not talking about just Jamar Chase. I'm talking about Chase Brown, too, the running back. He was the catalyst. The fact that they were able to run the ball, our defense never made them one-dimensional because they could get the ball to Chase Brown and he was getting big chunks of yardage. And so we were always playing on our heels and we couldn't attack how we wanted to. Obviously, we got to find some way to limit Jamar Chase's impact on the game. Got to find a way. He's going to get his numbers, right? He's one of the great wide receivers in this game. I got to say top three. Someone have him first overall, and I wouldn't argue against it. He's going to get his. T. Higgins is also a great Robin to his Superman. He's sometimes Superman as well. But first and foremost, we got to limit their production, and we got to stop at least Chase Brown in his tracks and limit the impact that Jamar Chase has. And then finally, we got to win a turnover battle, man. The last, it's very almost black and white with us. We win the turnover battle, we win the game. We lose the turnover battle, we lose the game. It's pretty much that simple. That's the case for a lot of NFL teams, but it's really incumbent upon us because I think we have such little room for error when it comes to offense and just blowing teams out because we just don't have that type of firepower on offense. And so we have to rely on controlling the clock, which we haven't done a good job of, and turnovers. So there's my keys. Charlie, what you got for us?
Yeah, a lot of mine are going to be similar to you as well. But I think the first one, obviously, is slowing down that Bengals pass game. And the reason being is because going in the very first game you had, Jalen Ramsey was starting at corner. Now he's playing at safety. So he's not going to be able to try to impact the game as much. And it's very hard to do from the safety position versus the cornerback position. So that is a change that is, I'm paying attention to see how he's going to be able to respond as it relates to stopping that Bengals passing game. Number two, got to get Jalen the ball. I'm saying you
Mhm.
have to keep giving him the ball. Yes, he had 127 yards in the first game, but yet they do it, like you mentioned, they do a good job of feeding him, but not feeding him late. So they have to continue to get him involved in the game because when you start looking at these numbers, it's alarming that Kenneth Gainwell is outplaying him in the game. So whatever that rotation is looking like, and I'm not throwing shade on Kenneth Gainwell by any means. All I'm saying is your starter should be the workhorse, and right now that's not the case. As running back coach Eddie Faulkner is actually splitting those reps, and Kenneth Gainwell is playing a little bit more than him at this particular point. So get Jalen Warren the ball. My third point: control the time of possession. You have to. And the way that this team is leaking that way, the defense is getting tired because offensively, they're not getting enough snaps to now be able to rest that defense. If you go back and look just at the last game in time of possession, the Bengals had the ball 9 minutes more than the Steelers. What does that produce? More first down opportunities, more third down opportunities. And that's how Jamar Chase was able to hurt this defense because he had more opportunities with that. So they have to do a better job. I'm hoping that they get to Acrisure Stadium. Okay, you don't have to worry about crowd noise. You give them a reason to be silent, but yet cheer when the Bengals are on the field to make it very tough for Joe Flacco and that offense of the Bengals.
Yeah, I can't be seeing us doing silent count at home anymore, man. That was embarrassing. Last time we were at home versus the Green Bay Packers, so two times ago we were at home. We were doing silent count on the offensive side of the ball, and that just can't happen. We got to give Steeler Nation something to cheer about. And I think Steeler Nation was pretty happy that we brought in somebody that can help this secondary. He's not going to play this week in Asante Samuel Jr., but he got signed to practice squad, and he was a second-round draft pick in 2021 to the Chargers and had 2 great years before an injury-riddled year last year, which ultimately led to his release. But from all accounts, he's healthy. He had the surgery to rectify the thing that was messing with his, I think it was some kind of spinal fusion. So I'm hoping that he can add something to that secondary. We released Juan Thornhill, who we brought and thought was going to be a contributor at free safety. It didn't work out. And we brought in Asante Samuel Jr. What are you hearing? What do you think that he can add to this secondary for depth?
Yeah, and right now, if you're looking for that immediate impact, are we going to get it? We don't know because he hasn't played football in a long time. Does
Right.
he have the skill set? Absolutely. That's what made him a second round pick. But I think ultimately what's going to happen is, and I know we're talking about this prior to the injury report going out in the final game status, the uncertainty for this team right now is Darius Slay. He's in the
Mhm.
concussion protocol right now. We don't know what that looks like as we are talking about this right now. If he cannot play, then yes, I expect Asante Samuels to actually play in this game and be a contributor to whatever capacity that he's going to play in this defense. So again, a lot of questions, and that is the main question as it relates to what Darius Slay's impact is. That will let us know whether they plan on playing Samuels or not.
Yeah. In regards to that injury report, you mentioned Slay is still out with a concussion. We do have some players back. Scotty Miller was able to practice in full after being out the last few weeks with a broken finger. And so it's good to have him back. He's explosive and that can add some speed to the offense if we so choose to use him. And then Jabril Peppers, another safety who we had high hopes with his experience with in New England and with Jalen Ramsey back there at safety. We're going to see what's going to happen when he comes in and how he helps that back end. And so hopefully we get to see that here this week and see how they manage the secondary. Also, it was documented that Broderick Jones was limited in practice this week. He practiced in full yesterday. Isaac Siamalu is back after missing last week's game. And so that weird rotation with Andres Pete and Spencer Anderson, I didn't like it. And so hopefully Isaac Siamalu is back and healthy and that he can go this week because it definitely had an effect on his offensive line. And so let's look at how we look at this game as a whole. Who has the advantages from a position to position standpoint? And when you look at the quarterback position, Aaron coming off his toughest game of the year, right? Joe Flacco also tore us up last time. Tore us up 31-47, 350 plus yards. Who do you think has the advantage from the quarterback perspective?
Yeah, this was a tough one for me, and I know when you just look at the numbers, Aaron has a little bit more passing yards versus in touchdowns more than what Flacco does, but he has a better receiving core that he has with him. So, but I'm giving the advantage to the Steelers only because we haven't seen Aaron Rodgers play a bad of a game that he played last week, and he'll be the first to admit that. I think he responds, and you're at home. You don't have to worry about crowd noise. I think he's going to now respond in a big way because anytime all you're looking for another opportunity to prove yourself. So I'm the quarterback position. I am giving it to Aaron Rodgers right now.
Okay. I'm actually going the other way. I'm giving it to Joe Flacco and the
Mhm.
Bengals currently because he just tore us up last time. And Aaron is coming off his worst game ever. Now, I don't think the Hall of Fame quarterback is going to double up with two bad performances in a row. I think he's, to your point, he's going to rebound. I think he's going to take it personally that he played the way he played this past Sunday. And I think he's going to be on point. But they, I got to see it. I got to see it from our secondary right now that they can stop Joe Flacco. They can stop Jamar Chase. And until they do that, I got to give the Bengals the edge ever so slightly in that quarterback room. The one advantage I did give us from the Steelers' perspective on the offensive side of the ball is the running back position. Jalen Warren outgained Chase Brown, even though I think his impact wasn't as big as Chase Brown's. But I give us the advantage in the running back room. I think Jalen Warren is going to have a great game this game. I think he's hungry. I think he realizes that he needs to have the type of game that he had last time plus more, where he gained 158 total yards. He's also had 4 catches for 31 yards. He was active in the pass game too. And I think the defense is really mad about how they let Chase Brown go off last time. And so I think they're going to stick it to him. They've been playing really good in the run game. They stopped Jonathan Taylor. They limited Vidal. He got most of his yards towards the end of the game when they were trying to close the game out. So I do give them credit for at least making things hard for Vidal, even though he got 90 plus yards. But I think they're really, really upset with how they performed last week. And I think the D-line is going to come out with a vengeance and stop Chase Brown.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And I think when you look back, Jalen Warren, yes, he had 127 yards in that game. I just think Kenneth Gainwell will be able to step in and actually add some of those yardage to the mix. But when you look at just the Bengals perspective, yeah, he went over 100 yards the last game. But will he do that again? I just don't think that they would do that because I think they're going to respect him a lot more in this game than they did the first. Now, could he pop over? I'm talking about Chase Brown here. Can he pop some big runs whenever the Steelers are now going to focus on that secondary to make sure that they're not allowing the big play to happen to Jamar Chase? I could see him popping some of those runs to get his yardage up. But I think at the end of the game, I think the Steelers will have a better run game in this game.
All right, O-line. I was disappointed this past weekend. I documented in the Trench Report and how this game did not improve upon the good game they had in the Colts game, talking about this past game versus the Chargers. Some of the same issues. Troy had his worst game of the year after having his best game of the year. Same issues with Broderick. We didn't have Isaac last week. We don't know about his health this week. He was limited yesterday, but it was good to see him at least practicing. And in the past, that means he's usually, if he's at least on the field on Thursday, he usually plays on Sunday. So that's at least good to see that he's out there practicing. But I'm still uncertain, right? And the offensive line from the Bengals took it personal last time they played us and played their butts off, opening holes for Chase Brown and giving Flacco all day to find T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. So I do give the credit or the advantage right now to the Bengals O-line wise, just based on performance last time. I expect the Steelers to step up. Isaac, I think, will solidify some of those things. Zach Frazier still had a great game last week, so hopefully he can build upon that. And I think that they do well, but as it stands right now, based on the last time they played, I give the advantage to the Bengals.
Yeah, it's hard to kind of disagree, but I will. And here's why. Because the Bengals defensive front is terrible. And I say that over the last 2 weeks because they've given up over 530 yards of on the ground. And I think the Steelers will be able to take advantage of that because I think Sam Malu potentially is going to come back. And if he's back, that's going to allow that jumbo package of the Steelers to really get going. So I think if they can get that particular package going again, I think they will take and have the advantage because you're adding that third tight end to the mix and you're playing at home again. The snap count will be an advantage. Aaron Rodgers, quick count, hard count, keeping that defensive line of the Bengals off balance. So I think this group responds, and I think they're going to impress you on Monday when you give your trench report.
I love it. I see how you threw the snap count in there. You know, like in the movie when you say the movie name, I see you throw that out there. I like it. Am I too tough? Am I too tough on my O line, man? I don't think I'm too tough. I think I'm just keeping it real. You know,
No, it's not too tough. It's only
yeah.
because you have a different lens than anybody else. I don't see what you're seeing when you're watching and reporting and doing these particular grades. So that's why we respect you because you played it, you did it at this level, and that's why your opinion matters.
I appreciate that, brother. I didn't think I was too tough. I just wanted to make sure, though. I needed to know. But when you look at the wide receivers and the tight ends, I think the clear advantage goes to the Bengals. They have one of the best to do it in the game, and he has one of the best Robins who could be a number one on another team, and T. Higgins, who is a baller. So just from those two perspective, they definitely got the clear advantage. We obviously have DK, have not solidified that second wide receiver spot next to DK. It looks like Roman is trying to throw his name in a hat. He looks like he wants to play the part. He actually, when he's out there running routes, catching the ball, just how he moves, looks like a wide receiver number two. I may be wrong. It's just from a novice's perspective when it comes to that position. Obviously, I have hope, but it's still they got a ways to go to get on the level of Jamar Chase and T. Higgins.
Yeah, yeah, I absolutely agree. And when you look at just everything that this team is doing, and when you look at just the, going back off the receiver position, these guys, listen, we know Jamar Chase and we know T. Higgins, those guys get it done. They had 22 catches, 257 yards between just the two of them. And when you look at the Steelers as a whole, they only had 249 with all of their receivers, including tight ends and running backs. So this group is going to get it done. I want to see the Steelers stop the slant route. We've seen enough of that. They started with the Bengals. It continued over the last couple of weeks. If team was taking advantage of it, the Steelers better take that away because that's when Jamar Chase is at his best and he will make you pay. That's why I think I'm going with the ultimate receiver group of the Bengals. And I say it only slightly because Jalen Ramsey is not in position anymore. So I think that's going to ultimately hurt what that rotation looks like on the back end. And let's just hope that the Bengals doesn't make them pay for it.
It's gonna be interesting, man, especially with Slay hurt. I think Echoes has played some really good ball. I think he has been in the spot and in coverage, but quarterbacks for whatever reason have super duper accuracy when targeting him because they be throwing the ball right where it needs to be, and Echoes is right there, and they just happen to make the catch. So I have faith in him. I think actually he has been performing better than Slay. So we'll see if he stays in concussion protocol.
Here's one name to throw at you, Trey. James Pierre.
Oh,
that
yeah,
guy,
yeah.
that guy gets in the rotation and he gets the job done. I know he's not part of the starting rotation, but when he's called upon, he's going out there and delivering. So we may expect him a little bit more as well if Darius Slay can't play.
It's the reason why he's stuck around, man. He's found a way to make himself valuable to the Steelers. And whenever he's called upon, is usually not for long periods of time, long stretches, but whenever he's called upon, he seems to always make a play. So, yeah, that's a name to not forget. I'm glad you brought him up. Let's move on over to the defensive side of the ball. A position group that's going to have everything to do with how much time Joe Flacco has to get the ball out is I think we have the advantage, the clear advantage defensive line across the board. I think Cam is pissed. His comments this week about trusting your teammate next to you, trusting that they're going to be in the right spot, that they're knowing what they're going to do. I think when it came to film study, I think Cam probably laid into him. I have a feeling that he was serious, all about business. Saw an interview this week where music was bumping too loud in the background. He's like, calm that mess down. Looking like the old man on the line. Like, you better calm that music down when I'm trying to talk, right? And so I think Cam's going to have those boys ready to go. Keanu Benton has been balling, especially in the run game. Yaya Black, I think we'll see more of him at nose tackle. Derek Harmon, they had a good game last week. Don't get it twisted. They got tired towards the end of that game. But I think we definitely had a clear advantage. I think the Bengals are still missing Trey Hendrickson and Shamar Stewart has not showed up like the first rounder they thought they would. He's very raw. And so they don't really have anybody up front that matches up well against us. And so I think the clear advantage we have is with the D line.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think the D line of the Steelers definitely has the advantage here, but yet this is a group that gave up 142 yards rushing in the last ball game, so they have to fix that mistake. And the reason why I'm going with the Steelers defensive line is because fans at Acrisure Stadium, they are going to make a difference in this game, being so disruptive, being loud. That is going to now get those offensive line of the Bengals to get off to a split second slow start. The Steelers are able to take advantage of it. So I think the Steelers weigh heavily in the defensive line category here.
And linebacking core, that front seven is going to be super important. The way Peyton Wilson has been playing, the way Patrick Queen played last week after, self-admitting that he wasn't playing up to what he's capable of playing or how he should be playing. So I hope that continues and we have a more consistent level of play from him. I'm hopeful, but the way Peyton Wilson has been playing, the way Malik Harrison came in and spelled Cole Holcomb, I think his contributions haven't been highlighted enough because he is a thumper. When you see him out there, he is coming downhill, trying to lay wood to the running back. And then obviously Peyton Wilson is just flying everywhere. And then when you look at Nick Herbig and the hybrid offensive line, defensive line, Alex Highsmith was out. We don't know if he's going to be healthy, but if he's out, we got Nick Herbig and TJ Watt. So I think the clear advantage in the linebacking room, it belongs to the Steelers.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Steelers as well. Obviously, the Bengals traded away their best middle linebacker a couple weeks ago. But ultimately, when you see what this team is doing, Peyton Wilson, he's flying around, like you mentioned there, Trey. 78 tackles on the season. He is 20 tackles higher than the next defensive guy, which is Patrick Queen. So I think ultimately, when you look and see everything that's going on, these defensive group is flying around. Yes, you talked about Nick Herbert. I'm hoping that Alex Highsmith is able to come back and we'll get that report here and be able to be back and get close to healthy as well. But ultimately, this group here is flying around, and I think they're going to get it done.
It looks like a clean sweep for the Steelers from the secondary or from the defensive standpoint because I'm going Steelers with the secondary as well. Now, granted, they gave up a ton of yards. They gave up 23 targets to Jamar Chase. They gave up 354 odd yards to Joe Flacco, 31-47. T. Higgins scored. And so these are things they have to clean up, things that I think they focused on ever since we played the Bengals. That has kind of been their litmus test, and they try to improve since then. And I think they have. I think they've done the right thing moving Jalen Ramsey to the safety position. I think we did the right thing trading for Kyle Duggar. We're going to see what Jabril Peppers looks like in that 3 safety mix, what his role will be if we're going to use Jalen Ramsey in the slot and maybe Jabril and Kyle Duggar man the safety positions. Either way, I think we have the people to play the position. Now we got to shore up the cornerback position. We don't know who's going to play opposite of JPJ as it stands right now. Slade's going to be healthy. If Brandon Echo's going to be the starter, we're going to move up Asante Samuel Jr. from practice squad. But nevertheless, I think we still have the advantage here, despite our performance from last game, because I think they've made the right corrections the coaches have on subbing the right people, put them in the right spot, and eliminating some of the big plays that we gave up prior.
Yeah, I'm with you on it, and I actually hit you with the curveball at the end because I know initially I told you it was the Bengals, but I'm going with initially I told you with the Steelers, but I'm going with the Bengals here. And the reason why I'm going with the Bengals is because the Steelers secondary, that pass defense, they have given up the most yards in the AFC. That just can't happen. So, but again, the only thing that can rectify that is having a pass rush. So they're going to have to get after the quarterback in order to now slow that passing game down of the Bengals. But I think ultimately where we are here, I think the Bengals right now, just because of the yardage that the secondary is giving up for the Steelers, I have to lean toward the Bengals in this department. And also I want to see that number 2 receiver step up. We can't have it. You talked about Roman Wilson. Can he get it going? It looks like he is. Scored a touchdown last week. Calvin Austin has to get going. I'm not down on him, but when you see a play like that, a ball bounce off of his hands, into an easy interception, that is one that is going to lose trust with your quarterback there. So look for that combination to potentially get going early. If it's successful, Calvin Austin to be part of the game plan, and ultimately, hopefully, it changes the thoughts that I just gave you here.
I hope, yeah. A-Rod's pretty good at getting his guys back on track. He won't shy away from throwing the ball back to somebody that dropped it. And Calvin also had 2 big drops last week. So I'm sure they worked on that all week because he is definitely somebody we need to get going. His big playability has not been used or has not played a factor so far this year. So hopefully he can get going against his Bengals secondary that quite frankly isn't very good either. Our stats are just worse. So I don't blame you for going with them. But I think we'll be better in this matchup. So let's hope so. Special teams. Give us the credit right here because I think our coverage teams are some of the best in the league. Now, we had a turnover last week. That can't help him. Williams has, I think, shored up the return spot. Where I don't know if Coach Tomlin is going to, or Danny Smith is going to move to Calvin Austin because that's how he kind of made his hay into the league, is getting him some touches in the punt return. I think you keep Williams back at kickoff return because I think he gives us some speed and some explosiveness where we didn't have that before. So I think him and Kenneth. But ultimately, with Boswell being at home where he's amazing and no kicker is nearly as good as him when he's kicking in Acrisure Stadium, he understands that stadium like nobody in the history of Steelers history. And so I think obviously we got the advantage from the kicker standpoint, and I think ultimately we have the better coverage teams. The return teams are a wash, but that's where I give us the advantage.
Yeah, I think when you look about it, you hit on all great points, and I think the one thing that I'm going to be paying attention to as we go through this game, okay, Williams is he dropped that punt or fumbles? He what was it, fumble or drop punt?
It was a muff, yeah.
The muff.
Yeah.
But remember in week 2 against the Seahawks, whenever that happened to Caleb Johnson on a kickoff return, Mike Tomlin benched him the following week. And
Yeah.
he put him in the doghouse. Will that happen with Williams here to now say Calvin Austin is potentially going to get more of an opportunity in the return game? So I don't know what's going to happen there, but I just look at the overall between both sides. I have to give the advantage to Danny Smith and his group. And I think they're going to make a play in this game that ultimately is going to be a difference in them winning this ball game.
I agree with everything you said. Coaching. All right, Coach T. Now, coming off, he looked disgusted after that game on Sunday, and you could tell he was kind of seething in this post-game conference, his post-game interview. Very short with his responses. Didn't want to place blame on any one person, but also didn't want to overreact either. He understands that we still have a lot in front of us, how important this game is. Obviously, it's big. Chargers game was huge last week. It was a huge loss, but now we're on to the next week, and this is an even bigger opportunity for us to maintain the grip on the division right now. So after a loss, I'm not quite sure what Tomlin's record is, but I figured it's pretty good. I think Tomlin's going to get these boys ready. It's a 1:00 game at Acrisure Stadium, a lot on the line, and the Bengals don't have a lot to play for, although we'll get their best because they still have that slight hope that they'll get into the playoffs, especially when Burrow gets back. But I think we have the advantage from a coaching perspective because I think Coach Tomlin is going to get these boys ready, and he knows the right things to say at the right time.
No, yeah, I agree with you. I'm with you on that. I think Coach Tomlin will get these guys to respond, and that's one thing that he's good at. And I think having a chance to play at home, you're against in front of these fans is going to get this team up and at them. Now they don't have the Super Bowl 40 reunion team to be there to get excited and do all of that good stuff, but they have to take it upon themselves to be able to do this. They know they have a chance to pour dirt on the Bengals. They cannot allow them to get to 4-6. If they do, they're right back into this division. But when I say pour dirt on somebody, you get them to their 7th loss. That lets you know, okay, Zach Taylor, you better turn it around in a hurry because now the hot seat is going to warm up a little. It's going to be a little warmer on there. So I'm giving it to Coach Tomlin as we go back through what we have here. So I think the Steelers and Mike Tomlin gets the edge in this category.
Yeah. Overall, it's going to be a barn burner, man. I think this game is going to come down to some big plays. Whoever makes the most big plays, and obviously who limits the turnovers, who wins the turnover battle, who wins time of possession, who controls the line of scrimmage. All things that matter in every game, but are going to be extra critical, I think, in this game. As we approach November and December football, can we start being the physical team that I think Arthur Smith wishes us to be? Can we be a second half historic defense like Coach Tomlin thought we were going to be starting the year? We still got 8 more games, right? The whole second half of the season is in front of us. They can still do some damage on defense. Can we round out and be the type of defense, stop the run, limit the big plays, tackle the catch? Can we do those things? And I think this Sunday is a perfect opportunity to show that we are capable of winning, built the way we're built in December, late November, December, and January football.
I agree. And this is the time of year you have to start stacking wins. I know we talked about this before, but you have to now start trying to create separation between the rest of the group. The Steelers cannot afford to get to 500 because that allows Baltimore to get back in it. Now, essentially, the Bengals feel like they have a chance, outside chance of a still division title because they have a chance to play all the division games. But you don't want to get to 5-5. This is especially when we're 4-1, 4-2, and dropping these games in this particular manner. If this is going to be the time to make your move, it has to be now because the schedule doesn't get any easier. Figure out a way to win a home game. You're 3-2 at home. Let's make it 4-2.
Yeah, it doesn't get any easier. As we look at the rest of the schedule, they have the Bears at Soldier Field. And then they come home and they bring Buffalo and Josh Allen. We know how typical that team has been in these last few years with Josh Allen at the helm. We still got 2 games left against Baltimore, which it always comes down to us versus Baltimore for the division. It's not going to be any different this year. We got a resurgent Miami team, got Detroit, and then that last Cleveland game is always tough. As much as we want to make fun of them, it's going to be a crucial game, and Cleveland loves nothing better, even if they're out of it, than to spoil our chances at getting to the playoffs. So not one game right here can we call and say it's a for sure game for us. We need every win we can get, and we need this one, starting with this one versus the Bengals. We need to get our revenge. But let's flip the script a little bit and get back into some gambling, some parlays. Let's get some CB picks in. As we look at this game, we discussed what needed to be done to win. So we discussed getting the ball to Jaylen Warren, and FanDuel has his over-under at rushing and receiving at 103.5. Do you think the Steelers get the ball enough to Jaylen Warren in order for him to eclipse that number, or do you think we come short once again?
I think we go short. And the reason being because I think Kenneth Gainwell will get a couple more reps in there, even though I think they finished with over 100-yard rushing. I just don't think it all applies to Jaylen in this particular point. So at 103.5, I think I'm going under this week.
Okay. Another guy, another running back, over under for Chase Brown. Gave us the business last time we played them, but they got a very conservative number. Now, he rushed for 109 yards versus us last time. They have his over under at rushing and receiving at 77.5. I know the Steelers, I know Cam Hayward and the rest of that D line are chomping at the bit to prove that was a fluke last time we went out against them. Do you think they do enough to keep him under that 77.5 number, or do you think he eclipses it?
No, I think he goes under this week, and I think they're going to take it upon themselves. That defensive front of the Steelers, I think they're really going to get after Chase this week and not allow him to get going, because when they allowed that to get going, the first matchup, that's whenever it kept the defense of the Steelers off balance, and that's where you started seeing those quick throws from the Bengals and really getting Jamar Chase involved in that game. I don't see that particular piece happening. I think they ultimately shut that down. So I'm going under.
Okay. And the big story from the last game, and a big story going into this, is how do we contain Jamar Chase? The people at FanDuel, our partners at FanDuel, have his over under at 8.5 receptions. That is a high number to have. And the odds are minus 136. So they think that is very likely to happen. Are you one of those that are very likely that he goes over that amount? Are you one of those that agree with that?
Yeah, I agree with that because I think the Bengals, because they're not going to be able to run the football, I think they're going to use that short passing game to now use that as the running game. That's going to be an extension of the running game. So I
Mhm.
think, a couple quick hitches. Yeah, you'll take away the slants. Maybe there's a now that's in there. Some of those catches just to get the ball into his hands and allow him to do what he does best, run after the catch. So I think looking at it, 8, I'm going over. I'm going over with that.
Can't really blame you when he had double that versus our
Right.
last time. If anything, he'll definitely get enough opportunities because Flacco is not going to shy away from him just because we know he's going to him. He did it 23 times last time. I expect him to have 15 plus targets this week. So that number looks like it's very much within reach for Jamar Chase. So I got CB's picks at under 103.5 yards rushing and receiving for Jalen Warren, under 77.5 yards rushing and receiving for Chase Brown, and over 8.5 catches for Jamar Chase. Those are CB's picks. Put them in. Plus 44.9, $10 gets you $48.50. All right. Go ahead and put those in. CP picks never fail. Now, oh, one more thing before we get the numbers on the over and under actually for the game haven't changed. Do you still take the Bengals at minus 4.5? They get 4.5 points this weekend.
Yes, I'm going under. I think the Bengals keep this game close, and I think ultimately that special teams play happens in this ball game, in the late in the ball game, and Boswell's able to now capitalize off of it. I don't think they score a touchdown. I mean, but I think they do create and make the field goal to allow them to win. But they
It's
also
cover,
but the Bengals cover.
but the
So,
Bengals cover. Gotcha.
yep.
Do you over under is still 48 and a half? You went under this past week. You see a defensive struggle. Do you still stand with that under 48 and 5? More defense and then
Yeah,
less
I'm
offense?
going on. Yeah, I'm going under.
Mhm.
Yes, I'm going under only because I think field conditions are going to play a factor in this. It's
Mm.
supposed to rain on Saturday in Pittsburgh during the Pitt Notre Dame game, and then it's going to carry over into Sunday morning. So I don't think that field crew is actually going to now be able to get it to where it needs to be and looking right for game day at a 1 p.m. start on a Sunday. That's number one. But I also think that there could potentially be some wind issues that are happening. And if the wind issues are there, guess what? You're not able to push the ball down the field as much. So I think because of those conditions, I'm going under.
Good call. I didn't even realize the weather was going to play a factor like that. And it is November football. And we're just coming off a little winter chill that happened this past week. So, yeah, good call right there. So, under 48 and a half, and that Bengals cover 4.5. So, FanDuel, people who play with our partner FanDuel, put those picks in, win you some money. All right. It's Friday, Chuck. I know yesterday was an amazing day for the Charlie Batch Foundation, Best of the Batch Foundation. In the pocket. Tell us how it went yesterday. I'm sorry I missed it, brother. You see this haircut? I was about to come in looking smooth. I had my paddle ready to go, but I know so much fun was had. Tell us how it went yesterday, bro.
Man, it was unbelievable just to see the amount of people that were there, the love that was shown in the room. We had over 600 people that attended the event. We had a tailgate theme that happened. We had the Steelers drum line. We had Steely McBean that was there. Everything that you can feel when you are anticipating a game, we just now took it to the event. So we got people excited walking into the venue. We had awesome online auction items that were there. We had a wine wall. We had obviously pool, poker, ping pong, cornhole. We had a lot of different challenges throughout the evening, and people enjoyed it. And we did it at the Distillery Complex, and is a great venue here in Pittsburgh that has newly opened. And we had 3 levels that we had going on. So everything that was there, people enjoyed it. The vibe was right. We had over 60 celebrities who attended the event yesterday, and it was really cool to see them. So I want to thank everybody that came out that believes in the mission and vision of the Best of the Batch Foundation. We are truly grateful. And we even had some Notre Dame folks in the house as they were preparing for Pitt on Saturday. Tony Rice, remember, for the former quarterback that was there,
Mhm.
he was like, I got to come in and support. I heard about it. So he walked in the door. Man, he was a great person to really look up to and see him walk into the building. So I'm just truly grateful for him to be able to be a part of it. But all that being said, thank you for everybody that believes in what we are trying to accomplish at Best of the Batch Foundation. We serve over 4,000 kids annually. We are in 9 counties throughout Western Pennsylvania. So as we celebrate 26 years, I just want to say thank you from Latasha and I.
That is awesome, man. I know how much this means to you and how much work the Best of the Batch Foundation does for the community. And I'm just glad that everybody came out and supported an awesome event. Wish I was there, man. I would have whooped up on some folks. One question. Who got the guitar? Did the guitar get sold? Did somebody
The
bid?
the guitar did get sold, but I
Okay.
don't have the name of it. Man, that
Oh,
was a hot item that was going through. Everybody's like, "That's for real. That was Sticks for
was the
real. They
list
all
was
signed
the
it."
list long for people who did you have to like draw in your name to bid on it, or was
Well,
it
you
just
could
one
bid.
of a live auction?
Yeah, it was a live auction. So you
Okay.
do the live auction, but again, because it opened up, because we had people who couldn't attend in person, but yet they want to participate around the country. So we
Mhm.
did have people bidding on it. So even though you're looking at it, you had to update the app to make sure that you were able to figure out what the bid was. And when the final bids came in, man, it was competitive during that time. So we don't control any of it. That's an outside source as it relates to those particular auction items. But man, we are grateful for people that believed in it, bidded on it, and was there in live time, even though they couldn't physically be there in person. So it was just truly a great honor. And one of the people, you have multiple people. The Steelers organization, Mr. Art Rooney was there, his wife Greta, Dan Rooney, his wife Jill, and just to see just the love. We had the mayor in the city. You
Mm.
had, everybody just came out, and it was just really, when it was heartfelt, when you just see the love that was in the room. And again, we did it at a different venue. We went to live and freshen it up, and it went over well. So everybody who participated into that, man, we are saying thank you, because even though we're draining today, it's emotional day, long day yesterday, but
Mhm.
man, it was worth every amount of time.
That's awesome, brother. And I know Best of the Batch does not rest. There's some holiday stuff coming up. We'll get to that soon. We'll get more details out, but I know there's a toy drive coming up here in December. Best of the Batch, Mr. Charlie Batch, he does not rest. He's always loving the community and doing what he can to help these kids because CB love the kids.
No, I appreciate it. A lot of stuff going on. But again, anybody who wants to know and learn more about what we're doing, they actually can go to batchfoundation.org. You'll be able to see all of the programs that we run throughout the course of the year. And as we ramp up into this holiday time, there are definitely opportunities to be able to help and support and physically be here and help wrap gifts and all of that good stuff. So it doesn't stop for us. We're nonstop all the way through the end of the year. So again, people who want to learn more and we love to collaborate with folks, they can go to batchfoundation.org. Let's see how we can work together.
Sounds like you got a win last night, and we're looking for another win this Sunday versus the Bengals, man. Uh, I'm looking forward to this game. I think we could bounce back, but we got to go out there and show it on the field. Acrisure Stadium, 1 o'clock versus the Bengals. Here we go. I'll see you on Monday, CB.
All right.